Last week we left you hanging out in Capitol Reef by a bunch of 95-million-year-old oyster fossils. We showed you some pretty amazing things, but hang tight. It gets better. So if you missed that one, do yourself a favor and check that out first. If you're all caught up, great job. Then let's continue with the Loop the Fold adventure and see what other epic sights there are.
For more than half a mile, the road passes between two layers of the 150-million-year-old Morrison Formation. On the left, facing east, are multicolored, rounded hills of soft claystone and volcanic ash in the younger, brushy basin layer. To the right, west, is the tan-colored, erosion-resistant salt wash layer, which is coarse sandstone and river-deposited gravel and cobbles. The Water Pocket Fold is most steeply tilted in this part of the park. The highly angled rock layers around you, formerly horizontal, are evidence of great forces that created this massive geologic feature in its landscapes. If you're driving slow enough, I don't think you're gonna mess it up, but there's like an S curve here, as the book says, and after you come around it, it says at mile 39.8 is a stop where we can get a really good view of the fold and like the steepest part of the fold. Just a word of caution, for me it was 39.7 miles in, not 39.8. So now interestingly, I'm off by 0.1 miles, but in the other direction, which is odd because we haven't had any opportunities to really stray off the road. So, but like the book says, mileage will vary. So let's go take a look at the fold. It's like right in our face. It also mentions Navajo sandstone. I think it's that red sandstone about 100 yards, it says off straight ahead. And apparently in the springtime, there's wildflowers that bloom down here, it says. And this is best viewed in the morning, it says, morning light. What a beautiful sight this is, though. So now we really can see the fold. And the thing we're looping, right? Looping the fold. So if you didn't understand what that means, we're doing a giant loop, a drive around this, what I believe is a 90-mile feature. And we've been following it for much of this way. And yeah, it is steep. And to me, it looks like this is like very reminiscent of the San Rafael Swell and how when it starts to like come out of the earth. And I'm wondering if it's essentially the same monocline type feature, just not as large and long. Let me know if I got that right. Man, looking down that way also is beautiful, and all that red sandstone, those triangles, it almost looks like a pattern, doesn't it? Like that Navajo tapestry formation out in the Four Corners. It's like reminiscent of that. And just like the San Rafael Swell over here at Capitol Reef, as you've seen, I mean, there's many slot canyons that form in these kinds of environments, and there's just, you know, a wonderful world, I bet you, behind that wall of canyons and just lots to explore, I would have to imagine, and some of which we saw when we were inside this morning. I was thinking this is very reminiscent of the geology tour thing we did at Joshua Tree. If you like that, then you're gonna love this. Just this is a much larger scale than the geology tour at Joshua Tree, but maybe for comparison's sake, in terms of road conditions, they're comparable. If you could do that one, you could do this one easily. I still believe a passenger car could do this. You're gonna probably rattle your teeth and your fillings loose on those washboards in a smaller car, but still, you could do it. So don't be afeared. It's worth it if you like geology. And I think Mr. McLeod would be proud. Okay, the fold. I'm wondering if we get to cut through that fold here in a couple miles. Like we're probably at the very southern, I think we are at the southern end of it. Basically, let me show you here, if you can see this map, where my finger is here. I can't really see very well, but you can kind of see, if you follow the numbers in sequence, starting here, I believe we've come down I'd say we're almost halfway there. We're about to like get off of the No Tom Bullfrog Road and turn on to the portion of the Burr Trail. The Burr Trail, Amy and I were gonna make a video out of, and that was gonna be a separate video, and we were like, oh, I don't know if we have time to do the whole thing in a day. Maybe we'll do half of it. And I said, oh, I wonder if there's a road that cuts into Capitol Reef. Well, guess what? This is it. So I'm just doing it in the opposite order that I was gonna do it in, which is fine, this is better. So we can go left or right. The book does talk about if you wanna go left down that Burr Trail, you can. It gives you some cautions and things to look out for, depending on the vehicle you're in, but we're not gonna do that. We wanna basically go here. I'm just gonna go, yes, a Bullfrog Basin, all that. We wanna go towards Boulder and Escalante. And in fact, this should come out right in Boulder at a place we stopped at yesterday, and I actually got on foot and explored. So a hint to those of you that saw that episode last week. But basically we have, it looks like about 42 miles to go to get there, and it looks like we're gonna cut straight through the fold. And it probably should get really dramatic and amazing back here is what my hope is. But I can say now, doing this drive really to understand the geology, especially the nature of the fold, this thing, its size, I guess, the scale, there's no better way to understand it than to drive around the dang thing. And I have learned a lot today, things I didn't know. I'm really enjoying the information you get. And by the way, this is a thing you buy at the visitor center. Some sites have their own, like you can print out a PDF kind of thing. This is a really nice quality publication, I would say. Let me grab it again. And it's $2.95 in the visitor center, and they'll just ask for the Fold the Loop Trail Guide, and they'll just say it's right there. So $3, you can't go wrong. I mean, oh, okay. So basically, we're at it now. Technically, it says in front of you are the Burr Trail switchbacks. And there's nobody out here, so let me just read about it really quick. It's named for John Atlantic Burr, who was born on the ship SS Brooklyn during passage from New York City to San Francisco in 1846. He pioneered a rough trail along this route to move livestock between winter grazing range in the desert to summer range in the mountains. The switchbacks were graded for vehicles during the uranium rush years of the Cold War. This rare break in the Navajo sandstone provided just enough room to cut the road into the steep hillside. I think I hear another vehicle coming right now. Perfect timing. We can kind of look down the switchback here and get a nice bird's eye view. I don't know if this is the overlook where the book tells you to stop, because now I'm all messed up with the mileage being off. I would think it's at the very top. It's like at mile 24, so this shouldn't be it. But it is a good overlook, and it really gives you a look at how quickly things change and how we're coming up. And it's so beautiful in here inside the fold, and mixtures of different colored sandstone all around you. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the highest spot. I don't know, because down there you could tell it kept going up, but here it feels like we're towards the top. So let's pretend we are. You're getting the pinnacle view now, and maybe the actual stop that's on the booklet, I'm gonna guess, because there's a pretty big like pull out here for a couple vehicles even. But yeah, we are seeing this. I mean, it looks beautiful from up here too. I know I was saying the better photo is from below in my opinion. I kind of think it is though, because it makes this part of the landscape taller. But I don't know, this is pretty cool. And you get a bird's eye view of the junction we turned down to come up through here, and thinking about Mr. Burr in, I presume, the 1800s. I don't know how he did it. I assume all by hand, maybe some dynamite. I don't know what he had to do. Or did he just kind of follow this natural break and that was the majority of the work? I don't know. But I feel like we're almost like a godlike figure standing on top, like looking down on a world, able to manipulate it, and like that game Populous, remember that? And I assume those are the Henry Mountains. See, this is where I get confused, because I think we saw them from far, far away, and I don't know if the Henry it's this section, and then this section is named something else, and then that section is named something else. I recall seeing a thing on the landscape where there was like the Little Rockies, so I'm kind of messed up as to where I'm at. I don't think that's it, so either this whole stretches are the Henrys, or that section over there, I would guess, would be the Henry Mountains. Anybody know? Comment down below. All right, so I've kind of done some learning. I think this is good because the next stop I want to do, I'm at 44.1 miles in, and the next two things are, I think I just saw it back there. There's a trailhead at 45 miles in, and then just basically nothing until we get to the 61.6 mile stop. There's a picture of what it looks like, and there's a large pullout on the left. So we're gonna just drive for a while. I wasn't commentating, and I got a lot of footage crossing that, I guess, stretch of Pinyon Pine Juniper Forest, and I'm at 59.7 miles in. According to the book, it's 61.6. There should be a really large pull-off on the left with an overview of a geology stop, which is my favorite on this trip, to be honest. I'm enjoying it more than the historical stops this time, thanks to Mr. McLeod. Oh, I might actually see a little vista point up there with rails. And if that's it, I bet you it is very close to the 61.6. I'm at 61.1, 0.2. I don't know, that's just a gate. Looks like for a road. Or actually probably the gate for this thing here. It's just open. I thought that was the viewpoint. Huh, it is here. So this must be it. And I'm at 61.2. So I'm guessing, because I'm getting further off, I am guessing that the thing to account for it would be maybe like close to a half a mile extra that we skipped because we didn't go to that trailhead at 21. Voila, that's gotta be it. Pretty positive this is the stop, so it matches the picture. So what this is talking about is we're looking back towards the Henry Mountains that we talked about. And the geology it's pointing out is, I guess, this colorful stuff here. is an exposed part of the Chinle Formation. Lots of formations we've talked about today. And I think a lot of these have to do with different periods of geologic time. I've seen pictures of all the layers of all these formations, and the Chinle is one that I read about a lot. It's in a lot of the stuff I read. Like, I just see the name coming up, not like scholarly stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, but that's really what this stop is for, is it's pointing out you're looking back east towards where we came from, and you can actually probably see it's hard to see the fold from here, isn't it? Because remember, we came up from it, so it's like if you were to walk way out there and look down, you probably would be looking down like 1,000 feet off the fold. Anyway, there you have it, the Chinle Formation and a beautiful scenic view. So next on the tour, so just to review, we're at 61.3 miles in of like the 125-mile journey. So you might be thinking, oh, we're just like halfway there. Like I said, don't worry, a whole huge chunk of it. It's going to be a quick summary of what we've already done in a different video. And here we're going to probably jump ahead too, because the next 10 miles or more, the only things of interest are trailheads for some hikes. So we'll probably stop at our next either view stop at maybe 68.3 miles in, where there's a trailhead and maybe a scenic view. But for sure there's something of interest at 76.5 miles in. And basically it's near that point where we're kind of where I was yesterday doing something. And so we're getting there, don't worry. If you're struggling to hang on, we're gonna expedite you as best we can. Wow, and we are in some amazingly beautiful landscape all of a sudden. At southern Utah, Red Rock landscape goodness. Beautiful. And it looks like I might see some hoodoos in the making right up here. What do you think? Anybody else see the hoodoos in the making? I'd say maybe not hoodoos in the making, I'd say straight up hoodoos. And some in the making. Deep in this canyon now. I want to say this is Long Canyon. I'm just kind of going off of something I thought I saw on the map, but I'm wondering if we're going to drive through this and then up out, and then the next viewpoint might be looking back down this ways, according to the picture I saw. There are people pulled over here, but I don't believe it's an official spot, unless there's some trail that I don't know about. There is a trailhead at the next stop on the booklet, and I think it doubles as a viewpoint. But the picture in the book shows this canyon seen up high as if from way up there on the other side. So, but whenever we get there, it should, whatever that is like in a mile from now. So if we're gonna go up, actually, I might even see the switchbacks over there straight ahead. I bet you that's what it is. Yes, sir. So right here, you see that? That has to be it. I'm at 68.3 miles, and let's say if you did go down to stop 21, you would be at what, 68.6 miles. That sounds right. That's about exactly as advertised in the book. There's a picture showing this approximate angle. There's a couple other spots up here where maybe it's even better. So we'll walk up the road, see if I get a better vantage point, but I believe that is Long Canyon, and Amy can always correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just curious if either of these vantage points are better. I guess this could be a pull out here too, but that's mighty close to the edge for my liking. And there's another one up there too. So I'd say there's multiple pull outs, but I think here, this is your view. This is probably the best, looking straight onto that canyon. Beautiful. So when I said earlier, I was kind of making comparisons to the geology tour at Joshua Tree, and if you've not seen that video, we'll put a link down below. I did that. Once again, kind of same idea with this one, except this is a whole different level. I mean, you get to see so many different landscapes, types of rocks. Over at Joshua Tree, you get kind of the same. It's more focused on the Monzo granite formations, but this is just, I would say, out of any like kind of tour, mile by mile tour I've done in any park, this is my favorite one of all time so far. I cannot recommend enough buying that $2.95 pamphlet. It's very well done, and despite the little, you know, I would say the mileage discrepancy, it's so close, and I think you can logically explain it and figure it out if you pay attention that it's negligible, I would say. Very well done publication, very good information. It very much enriches the drive. But yeah, if you're a kid, you're probably going to be bored out of your mind. It appears like the canyon continues too. You see what I appear are cottonwood trees and other lush things down there. You know, if I was a parent, I probably would in some way be a very bad parent. In that, I imagine I could see myself driving here and I'd have a child in here. And I would memorize the whole book and do like a narration the whole time, and there'd be a pop quiz at each stop. And if you get the answer wrong, we'd have to go back a mile each time backwards until you get it right. Some might call that abuse. That would be fun though, to kind of read that, memorize it, have like people with you, and just be able to give the tour. Even from the comfort of the AC, nobody has to get out. 258 million years ago, the landscape before you was a vast ocean, blah, 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 blah. It'd be something like that. Currently at 68.7 miles into our journey, and the next stop of interest is going to be at 76.5, so we have a little less than 10 miles to go. So I might kind of just do the usual, not say much. It's a geology stop. And if it's at 76 point, what did I say? 5 for us, that in theory should be 76.2 for those who didn't go down to stop number 21 and back. I'd say that might be the best part of this drive, is the variance, the amount of different scenery that you get. It's just one thing after another. And I know what's upcoming too, by the way. If this was your first time doing it this direction, you're gonna see a whole different world that we haven't even seen on this. High alpine meadows, pine trees, thick pine forests. That's the part we're gonna fast forward through. So if you watched our video last week, it probably was, where I went to the Anasazi State Park Museum. Well, guess what? That museum is one of the stops on this thing. So that's where the Bird Trail lets out in Boulder. And then there's that whole section I did yesterday. So that's the abbreviated part. I'm giving you a preview of that because we're getting closer to that part now. So we're not too far away. I think we have one geology stop to go, and then it's gonna be 76.5, which would be 76.2. It's about 4 miles from here. But, oh, wow, that was amazing. So the next stop says there's a pull off on the left at 76.5 miles. My offset would put it at 76.2 miles, but I'm at 76.0 miles. So either I'm in the wrong pullout or we're now way off and there's some weird miscalculation I can't account for. The picture shows white Navajo sandstone with intricate crisscrossing patterns like this, and black rocks, like these weird round black rocks that are all over the sandstone side, I should say. So the star of the show here are these, I would say, these volcanic rocks that are round, very rounded out. And it's very strange, isn't it, why they're all strewn about here? What's your guys' guess? Did some volcano around here eject large volcanic rocks that were also just strangely rounded and weathered like that? If that seems strange, you're right. That's not how they got here exactly. They are volcanic rocks. They did come from a volcano, but the way they got rounded was through glaciers. And glaciers out here, Glenn? You're lying. That's what it says. So as of up to about 10,000 years ago, there were glaciers in this region, but I think between that and maybe even going 150,000 years ago, the glaciers here trapped a lot of this volcanic rock, and over the thousands of years, flash flooding transported, glaciers transported all this stuff, flash floods transported these rocks and eroded them all along the way, the action of water and wind. But that's how they really are strewn about, is they got picked up in glacial ice and then deposited and then further weathered by normal culprits like I said, water. I don't think I've ever seen this exact phenomenon anywhere before. And if I have, I didn't even think about it or wonder. But it really is odd when you look around and you see that everywhere. And if you didn't really know, you'd be like, yeah, where did that come from? It's just you can clearly see it's a very different kind of rock. You got sandstone. The thing said white Navajo sandstone. And clearly, like volcanic rock, it's really rough, porous, but at the same time, very smoothed out like a pebble in a river. And you'd have to wonder, what the heck? How did this just appear here? It's so weird. That makes sense though. Glaciers. Right, so I'm gonna double check here and tell you what it says so we can compare notes, because now things are starting to get a little weird with the mileage. 76.5 is where the stop is supposed to be. See? Does that look familiar to you? I am at 76.0. With my offset, it should have been 76.2. So either there's more than one pull-off, and we're about to see it, which we're gonna film, or somebody made a boo-boo. Whoever made this made a boo-boo. But I still forgive you for it. But let's see. I'll call out 76.2, and we're really close to the end of the Burr Trail, this portion of the Burr Trail anyway, just so you know. I imagine there's more of this stuff all along the sandstone, so it's very possible. We're at 76.2 right here though, so I can tell you there's no pull out. I'm confident that was the pull out. So however the mileage got off there, I couldn't tell you, because I've been on the same road the whole time. There's a pullout on the right, but I don't see any lava rock. And then outside of that, we have 2 miles or so to get back to the All-American Highway 12. That should sound familiar to those of you that watch our show. And it's at that point I'll stop really quick, and then I'll kind of summarize a whole section so we can kind of expedite getting where we need to go. For those of you that follow the Cactus Atlas Weekly, you should know this, because it should have been, I believe, on last week's episode, if I'm not, unless we changed something around, when I was driving from Kodachrome Basin State Park, left that campground and drove to Fruita Campground yesterday, and I documented the drive, and a lot of it was devoted to coming on the All-American Highway, State Route 12 here in Utah. And then we proceed that way down the road, which is still part of the loop that we're doing. I'm not going to be going in here, or I'm going to be fast forwarding and describing what we saw yesterday, but I would highly recommend this museum. It's basically the remnants of a small ancestral Puebloan village in the back. Nothing like, a Chacoan kind of thing, or nothing like that. It's small, but they do have some areas excavated, and it probably will only take you about 10 minutes. And yesterday it was free. And I think it's probably free for the time being. I don't know if they'll ever charge admission, but they are renovating the museum. So I'm wondering if the insinuation is once they renovate the museum, are they going to charge? But who knows? But it's still worth it. So the part that I'm going to kind of fast forward over, and Amy's going to show you footage, is outside of here in Boulder, and after the museum, you're going to take 12, and you're going to very abruptly climb an elevation. I think to something like close to 10,000 feet, I think is where you're going to go. And you're just gonna go up, you're gonna start seeing these beautiful meadows, pine trees, and you're gonna be in these lush pine forests. You're basically gonna go up and over what I believe is Boulder Mountain, right? And then at the top, I think there's even a stop, and I stopped there. We spent a little bit of time there, and I got some views, and I didn't know it at the time, but we were indeed looking back down at Capitol Reef in the area where I would be camping, and continued down on the other side through some steep grades down to the Torrey, Utah area, where the landscape starts to go from that really dense pine forest back to those red rock landscapes again and desert. As I promised, I skipped all that stuff that we did yesterday, and hopefully Amy's brief summary of it made it make sense. So I've come down out of those mountains, and now I find myself back in Red Rock country, approaching Capitol Reef again. For how many times have we crossed in and out today? Several. And just so you know, yeah, we're on a loop. Keep that in mind. So the visitor center eventually, towards the end of our route, is going to be on our right. We made a right turn out of the visitor center when we started this morning. But I figure it's appropriate now to start filming again, as we're getting very close. And there's one last stop to make, and it's one last geology stop. And keep in mind, there are a couple stops that I'm skipping. There's a hike out to a Chimney Rock. It's not that long of a hike, but for time's sake, I'm skipping hikes, because I think that would just put this way too over the top in terms of a long video. And that just really leaves one last geology stop to note. I'm actually thinking, let's see here, I'm driving, so I gotta be really careful here. Once we cross into Capitol Reef, which is right here, we should have 1 mile. And on the right, there should be something called Twin Rocks is what we're looking for. But for now, this is not one of the stops, but I have not had a chance yet to come film the entry sign, because there's usually been people here taking their photos. So I'm gonna get that done now. Somebody just pulled over behind me, so they're coming to get their time with the sign also. It's hard to get these national park signs to yourself. I'd say they're a must-do. This one's nice because it has a little selfie thing on it here. I don't know why people have to put these rocks here like that, but let's set it up and I'll take advantage of it here. What do you say? I had to stop and do that. I think that's only appropriate. I was gonna spend more time and say a few more things, maybe do some intros and stuff, but like that, there's a car waiting on me, and then I was like, it's gonna be a fool's errand. Now everybody left, but there were a lot of cars that just passed by, so it's just hard, you know, you gotta take your turn with that thing. But I love the selfie like table they had in front of that. All the national parks need to install one of those things, because we have solo travelers like me that don't have someone to take our picture all the time. Anyway, I'm keeping an eye on my trip. I kind of gave up on the triptych because I drove into Torrey. I was going to stop and get a bite to eat before I did this, so I drove a little extra, so I kind of got all the stuff out of whack here at the very end. But I was like at 127 miles just before, and I reset the triptych so I could compute 1 mile in, which is our last geology stop on our tour. And then what I'm going to do is take us to the campground, and that'll be that. I'm looking for something called Twin Rocks, and it should be coming up. If on the right, there should be a pullout on the right for something called Twin Rocks. I'm guessing right here. And I think I see the Twin Rocks actually. I do. Right up there. It even has a sign that says, look at that, Twin Rocks. I gotta pull over to the side there in case somebody else wants to come here. Right across the street from me are the Twin Rocks up there. We've seen many things like this on our travels, especially in the Arizona Strip. So really what the book is saying is you've got, I don't know how to pronounce it, Moenkopi, O-M-O-E-N-K-O-P-I, Moenkopi sandstone, capped by, I forget now the other one, but I think there's something having to do with the Chinle Formation, the oldest stuff on those rocks, but basically different rocks formed by different sediments in different times. And it doesn't talk about it in there, but one thing we've read about in other places, you see things like this, and oftentimes the material underneath erodes faster than the stuff on the top, kind of like how it looks here, and you'll get these really weird things with these balanced rocks. And I wonder if essentially that's kind of what these are on their way to become, are balanced rocks. But the interesting thing of note in the brochure talks more about, I guess, the different formations, the types of things we've been talking about, the ages and the differences. And you can see, I can see that reddish sandstone on the bottom, and they're capped by a different material. There it might even be 3 different layers, something on the top, the middle, and the bottom. But I'm at the end, folks, and my brain is fried. This has been a pretty long but very fun adventure. So I'm gonna round it all up, and we're gonna end it where we started. I admit that last one was pretty rushed and maybe not as well described as some of the other ones, or maybe all of them were rushed and not well described. You guys can comment down below and let me know. But I feel like I'm kind of blowing through this one because I'm, you know, what time is it? It's 3:30. Gosh, I didn't really mark exactly when I started, but I know it was before 10. I'd say between 9 and 10, maybe even before 9. Gosh, I don't know. Let's just say 9 as an estimate. It's now 3:30, right? So this whole thing has taken me about 6.5 hours to do, and I only stopped at the geology stops, like in the overlooks and the history stops. I didn't do any hiking, so keep that in mind. And it's pretty much on par with what they were saying in the visitor center, the publication. It says at a minimum it'll be 4 hours. I think that's if you just drive it and don't really stop at all. Maybe take a picture or two. You could probably get it done in 4, be like me and stop and talk, 6.5 hours. They said 4 to 6, so I'm a little over the average probably, but that makes sense for me. But if you do stop though, I would think 6 is a better estimate if you wanted to plan a day. But of course, just like the brochure said, if you're gonna throw in a few hikes there, which I think under normal circumstances, if I wasn't doing this, I would have for sure, pretty much plan on a full day, whatever a full day is to you. I guess it depends on how much sunlight there is in a given time of the year and stuff, but easy, I could see that. And I would even call this a full day to me. I mean, a full day of work, it's been, you know, 6.5 hours, plus the prep that I had to do before I got in there. I had to, you know, everything that went into it, I guess. I would say, I could say I've put in a full day of work. Probably closer to 8 hours if you include everything leading up to it. We have returned back to where we started this morning, where I was drinking my coffee at my campsite here at the Fruita Campground. I would say that drive, if you're new to Capitol Reef like me, and that was my, your first time here, that drive teaches you a lot about stuff you're probably going to see over and over in here. You also get to really intimately get familiar with the southern half of the park and just the general layout of this and all of the bordering parks and public lands. And you're gonna get a very good sense of what looping the fold means. And you're gonna get a really good sense of how large that geologic feature is, the fold. If you made it through the whole thing, you're a trooper, and I appreciate it very much, and so does Amy. You're the best. Thank you for watching this one. Hope it was interesting. Let me know if you like these style ones where I buy like a brochure or read a brochure and kind of take you on my interpretive tour of it and tell you stuff. A few of you said you like those things, so we'll do more of it in the future. I actually have another one, a similar one, coming up for the northern half of the park if all goes according to plan, so keep tuned for that if you like this one. Other than that, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends about the Cactus Atlas, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.